In terms of people's perceptions of aliens, people generally want similar looking aliens. They want something that's different, but yet kind of similar to it. We don't want anything that we couldn't potentially fuck. Generally, I divide aliens at this point into two general classes. You have your technological aliens, which are like human beings, build technology, and then you have your processors of information, which are non-technological aliens, like, say, the bottlenose dolphin would be an excellent example of that. They're not aliens, but they would be a representation of that in this galaxy. I'd like to have a name for the non-technological processors of information. You'd think I'd have one before I started this movie. You'd be wrong. Now, in terms of actually comparing human and dolphin intelligence, you can actually make the argument that the dolphin actually has the more advanced brain. They do have a greater amount of neurons, a greater amount of neural density, and neural connections within the evolved cerebral cortex. So you can make the argument it is a little bit more advanced than the human brain, but it is also a different type of consciousness, which means it's like comparing apples and oranges. Now, every once in a while you'll hear somebody say that, oh, we're the only ones that could do this, and human beings are the only ones that could do that, because people like to bat this shit around like a fucking nerdball, and the only reason they like to do it is because we think we're number one because we have opposable thumbs. We think that makes us badasses or something because we're these opposable thumb manipulating bastards. Having an opposable thumb is no good if it's shoved up your ass. The fact is, in terms of actual consciousness and the power of consciousness and self-awareness, we may be number 2 on the planet Earth. So you better just deal with it. Now, in consideration of the differentiation of consciousness, let us consider sexuality, which I'm kind of having right now. Just kidding. I wasn't kidding. But anyway, it may very well be that in terms of dolphin sexuality, it may very well be that they may actually be sexually sonaring their own bodies. In other words, spraying sonar waves along each other's bodies for sexual stimulation and excitement, possibly focusing in the beam along the crucial areas for maximum arousal.
Oh, baby, don't stop, baby. Oh, yeah, baby. Oh, my God, yeah. Oh, yes, 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 yes. Oh, yes, 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 yes.
Just a theory. Now, just a theory. Now, what you need to understand here, though, is that scientifically speaking, I can be so full of shit that it's literally beyond human comprehension. It's literally coming out my ears. I mean, it's just check, make sure there's nothing there now, but it could happen. Trust me, it could happen at any second. Now, in terms of non-technological intelligences, it may very well be that they have a distinct advantage over technological intelligences in this universe, both cognitively and perceptually. Now, you take the bottlenose dolphin. A bottlenose dolphin actually emits a sonic beam from its head, sonar, which bounces off an object and then returns to the dolphin's brain, where the dolphin's brain then forms a three-dimensional representation of that object within its brain, with sound. It's a three-dimensional sonic image of that object. Now take these 5 speakers here. You have 5 speakers underwater that are positioned in a precise point in space and time. Now, if each one of those speakers makes a sound, a dolphin can actually hear each one of those sounds and determine where that sound is coming from in terms of space and time, which means in this particular case, a dolphin would actually hear the image of a pyramid. In other words, the image of a pyramid would actually be formed in its brain based on sound alone. You see, the fundamental difference is between humans and dolphins is that humans see with their eyes and they communicate with their mouths, but a dolphin actually sees with sound and then communicates with sound, so it doesn't have to transpose mediums like a human does. This may give it a huge advantage in terms of the communication of information, and it may actually represent a huge advantage amongst any creature that can do this in the universe. I love imagining inside my brain what might be going on inside their brains. For instance, they have to know that they're more related to a dog, a cat, or a human, provided that they're in the water, than they would be to a shark, because they can see your internal anatomy. They see the similarity of the vertebrae and the rib structure and the overall organ development. They know they're more related to those 3 species than they would be to a shark, because a shark has almost no common internal anatomy with them whatsoever. I know what you're thinking. Get a life. The point is out of this whole thing is because they don't have to transpose mediums the way we do. That may give them an advantage in terms of the processation of information, which means that we may actually become dependent on them in the future sometimes. I know what you're thinking. We're going to become dependent on it. That's good. Well, listen, when we become dependent on something, we actually allow ourselves to become dependent on something. I mean, like, it's like the other day I lost my Bluetooth, and now I don't know what to do. I'm lost. I just, even though I spent the first 48 years of my life without a Bluetooth, I'm a spoiled, rotten piece of shit. Let's just get that out of the way right off the bat, okay? You're probably thinking, why don't you go out and buy another Bluetooth, you dumbass bastard? I'm not that bright, okay? At any rate, what I'm saying is it's possible for us to allow ourselves to become dependent on them if they, in fact, can process information that would be crucial to us. I mean, this age that we're living in may actually give birth to the first union, at least humanity's first union, with another intelligent species, and the sharing of the processation of information that we have. And the processation of information that they have will be vastly different from ours. I mean, human beings, the fundamental difference between ourselves and them is human beings, just, nobody ever accused me of being a control freak. I'm basically a laid-back person, basically. But by virtue of the fact that I'm a human being, I'm a manipulating son of a bitch. I mean, if you look around this room here, everything that you see has been manipulated. I like to manipulate the living shit out of people. Not people. I did not say that. I meant things, okay? I'm not a control freak or anything like that. But by virtue of the fact that I'm a human being, everything that I deal with is basically manipulated in one respect or another. Now, every once in a while, Mother Nature will come along and just put a tornado right up our butts, just to show us who's really running the show here. And of course, we're all in shock, because we're always, constantly manipulating everything around us, and suddenly we lose all this control when something like that happens. But with a dolphin, they would probably be more accepting of that in terms of a tornado or a hurricane, because they're not used to manipulating anything, so they would probably be more accepting of complete disaster like that, I guess. I don't know. To give you an idea of the difference, I mean, if a hurricane's coming, human beings will, in a lot of cases, do something really stupid, like have a big party in the middle of it, invite a bunch of people over to be in the middle of the hurricane, okay? But a dolphin's smart, okay? A dolphin will get the hell out of there, okay? That's the difference. That's the base of our technology. We like to control everything. We are massive control freaks. But the dolphin doesn't have the option to become a control freak the way the human being does. The dolphin has to predict. It has to project. Now, as we move into the digital age, it's only natural, at least to me, that we're going to see the emergence of the digital dolphin of the future. The dolphin and its marriage to the computer. And for the first time, human beings will be inventing computers that we ourselves are incapable of using, but are in fact designed for use by another intelligence different than our own. And that, of course, would be the dolphin and the whale. And these types of computers will be, I guess, sonically based. And in the beginning, we're not going to try to control what it is they do or anything. We're just going to observe. If we're smart, we're just going to observe what they're doing. And eventually, as we observe more, and we'll see what they're doing in terms of math. We'll see it'll be converted for us into visual math. So they'll be using it sonically, but it'll be converted into visual math. And we'll see what they're doing. And eventually, we might be able to have a really primitive conversation with them about ice melting or something like that, hopefully. Eventually, it will become more advanced. And eventually, you'll see the first... God, I can't believe I'm saying this. Dolphin astronauts. Yes, dolphin astronauts. Now, I know that sounds crazy. It probably is. But listen, we're in the age right now where we know that there's an entire ocean underneath Europa. That ocean's been sitting there for at least 4 billion years. And I know people like to play it safe and say, oh, there's probably just little microbes swimming around. The fact is, there could be big-ass fucking whales swimming around. There could be anything there. Who knows what's swimming underneath the oceans of Europa right now? I mean, it might be nothing, but it may be everything. And it's no doubt aquatic. The dolphin is ideally suited to be able to understand that alien intelligence if it's there. That's why we need to get this process started. That's why the emergence of the dolphin astronaut, however psychotic that it sounds, must occur. And I believe that it will occur. And I believe that we will eventually see dolphin astronauts in deep space making journeys toward the stars. Basically, I think they're going to have their own centrifuges in deep space. I think they're going to have their own dolphin highways in deep space. They're going to have their own squid farms. They're going to become merchants of information. You're going to see me in a mental institution. There's probably beings at the center of the Milky Way galaxy that would just love to have a conversation with a sperm whale. It's going to happen. Yes, and this is our job as human beings, as technological beings. Our job is to get them there. So we need to stop thinking about ourselves and start thinking about other weird-ass shit like this.